From ancient civilizations to modern-day issues, social studies plays a critical role in shaping well-rounded and informed citizens. Welcome to the North Carolina Council for Social Studies Connections, a collective podcast for NC social studies teachers. Throughout these podcasts, we'll dive deep into real-life experiences from passionate social studies educators across the state of North Carolina, highlighting their classroom strategies and innovative teaching techniques. Each episode will feature insightful interviews with experienced educators, curriculum specialists, and thought leaders who have dedicated their careers to enriching social studies education. Together, we'll explore best practices and tips for addressing the unique challenges that come with teaching the ever-evolving subject of social studies. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or a fresh face in the field, NCCSS Connections is your platform to find inspiration, expand your teaching toolkit, and connect with a community of like-minded educators who share your passion for social studies. NCCSS believes in the power of collective knowledge and the impact it can have on our teaching practices. Its goal is to foster a supportive network that encourages growth, collaboration, and the pursuit of excellence in the social studies classroom.
I'm thrilled to have you join with us today as we explore the fascinating world of social studies education throughout North Carolina. I'm your host, Dr. Travis Towne, and I'm a North Carolina Council for Social Studies board member, along with being a teacher at the Early College High School in Lenoir County. Today, we are joined by Tyler Daughtry, who is a middle school teacher for 13 years now at the Johnson County Public Schools. He is also a board of directors member of the North Carolina Council for Social Studies, and we thank you for joining us today, Tyler. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I have been an educator for 13 years. I am a third-generation educator. My grandmother and mother before me were both elementary educators. And from an early age, I have loved history. I've loved social studies. My mom will always tell the story. The thing that inspired me most was a trip to Gettysburg when I was in middle school. The famous story was the tour guide took us on a tour for about 5 hours, and my mom and sister got extremely bored. But I listened, and it really inspired me to delve into history. When I graduated from high school, I thought I wanted to go into a different field, but then education called me, and through that, I was able to come back to the school district that gave me so much and teach history and coach 3 sports and write curriculum. And now I have taken on a leadership role in the North Carolina Social Studies Council and am now a member of the board of directors for the Council for Social Studies.
So it sounds like you've got some great experience and kind of a love for this, although it sounds like you've gone kind of around your elbow to get to your knee, to get to your left knee. But I think most of us kind of experience that. And I think one of the things about being a social studies teacher is, in my opinion, and probably yours as well, you can tell us, some of the best social studies teachers out there are ones that have kind of come back into it or maybe a roundabout way. So tell us about that kind of experience.
Yeah, I always loved social studies. I always loved history and always loved, especially North Carolina and United States history. But I also had another love. I had a love for sports. I grew up loving the Atlanta Braves, the team of the 90s. I learned how to read by reading the box scores in the News and Observer. That was how I knew how to read. Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones, Glavine, Smoltz, Maddox. If you're a baseball fan, you remember those names for the Braves.
Yes, indeed.
And I learned how to read that way through the N&O, through the News and Observer. And I knew I wanted to give back to my community. I thought I just wanted to coach. I thought I wanted to become a sportscaster for WRL or ESPN or go to Atlanta and be for the Atlanta Braves. But things happen. And I would go to Johnson Community College, go to Barton, and I realized history was right there in front of me. Education was right there in front of me. And it was a way to give back to the community that, like I said earlier, that gave me so much. And it was time to give back. And I've been able to kind of transfer those lessons to the kids, the next generation of learners in our community.
So you teach in middle school right now.
I do.
Have you taught there most of your 13 years?
I've taught middle school all of my 13 years.
All right.
Yes.
And your middle school, the 6th through 8th?
6th through 8. Yep.
Okay.
And taught all 3 grades.
So you've taught all 3. So you've got some experience in all of these.
Yep.
Now, share with maybe our new teachers that are coming into that middle school and obviously the high school, what are some of your best practices that you kind of focus on with, obviously middle school grades, but also that can we bring it over into high school?
First off, as a middle school social studies teacher, we have to have a passion for social studies, and it's a special breed of us.
Yeah, a little crazy. I did junior high, so I know the feeling.
Yeah. It's a special breed. But how I approach social studies in our classroom at the middle school that I'm at is we take real world issues and we connect them back to whatever topic we're talking about. So 6th grade, we did real world connections to ancient Rome and ancient Greece. In 7th grade, we connected to types of governments. And now in 8th grade, with North Carolina US, we'll connect it to local issues. And how we do that is we do a big project in our class over the last few years that has basically taken a real world topic that does not have a current solution to it that students can solve, and they try and draw out a solution for that topic.
And do you find that the kids are really enjoying that?
They seem to be. Most of them through discussions, through observations, through summative and formal assessments, students seem to enjoy it because they have a hand in the local issues. They have been able to solve current events. For example, the first year that we did it, the group that started this is sophomores or rising juniors at our local high school. And one of the issues at the time was right after the Parkland high school shooting and incident. And it was an awful situation. And we developed that project. Our kids developed that project to address what was going on in our community at the time. And one of the groups who did it took the school shooting and school safety issue and went after it. And it led to a school safety measure that was addressed in the next few years, including corridors, including metal detectors, including updated school safety measures to protect the kids that were going to be in school in the next they are right now.
So you talked about these resources, and one of the things that North Carolina Council for Social Studies is really trying to push and help, especially new teachers in the classroom, with finding these resources. And we're putting out some things that you and I both have done some, here's a couple of resources that we use, here's how you do them. Where do we find these new resources? I mean, do you have any go-to areas that you say, or are you just off the top of your head going, this is what I'm creating?
It's a lot of creativity. It's a lot of creativity creations.
Okay.
I have some great mentors in my life in the education world that have guided me. And I go to them and I say, I've got this idea. What do you think about it? And that's the way that I do it, is I look at local issues. I look at current events all the time. I say, okay, how can we approach this?
And that's really, I think, a plug for not only new teachers looking at the veteran teachers and saying, okay, help us, help me, being willing to look at new opportunities, new ideas, and perhaps you veteran teachers out there to kind of make sure that you are mentoring those younger teachers, that you're giving the ideas, because I've been in the classroom for 18 years now. I took a 7-year hiatus for military, and I think one of the best things that for me is to be able to kind of pour in, because that keeps me fresh. Well, I used to do this, but boy, that doesn't work anymore. Let's do something different. So you mentioned that, you've got some great mentors in your history. What would you say to those type of people?
Yeah, my mentors are some of the best I could have ever asked for. My first year mentor, I went through everything that a first year teacher goes through: the struggles, the going home and crying, the wanting to leave, but fits and things. My mentor was wonderful. I camped out in her room daily. She's wonderful, but she wasn't a social studies teacher. So she couldn't really give me that social studies knowledge. So I had a co-teacher who had only been in the field for 4 years, but was beyond me. And I started reaching out and saying, "What did you do? Josh, what did you do in your classroom?" And I'm teaching at the school that he was at.
Right.
Almost in the same classroom.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And so that's the way it works. But you have to reach out to people that have been there and done that. I read books that I'm interested in. Dave Burgess, Teach Like a Pirate, the famous Burgess series. It was the book that kind of got me going again. I mean, after 5 years, I read it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, now this is something different.
Right.
Now let me reinvent my classroom again."
Right.
And then I reread Harry Wong and Marzano and Gardner and all those famous educational philosophers, and then the inquiry model helped.
Right.
John Smith from State, those helped. And it's all about finding what you need. Johnson County, as you know, Johnson County, our district didn't have much. We didn't. So I had to go find and hunt and search and find what my students could learn best through.
Right. And I think one of the things you mentioned is that, you had to make it fit you.
Yeah.
And there's so much out there. There really is. And what I've been excited about is seeing all the different aspects of different people doing that at the conference, North Carolina Council conference in last, I guess, March, and this year it's going to be in February. It was one of those ideas that so many people came and so many different perspectives were provided. I was blown away. But you got to make it your own because it's too much. And as I teach civic literacy and then I teach economics and personal finance, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff. And so you got to parse it down. And we're going to shift gears for just a second. But one of the things that I think a lot of us, going back to the new teacher and the mentor teacher, is that, we're in a weird cultural shift right now. We're in a weird political shift right now. And regardless of your political leanings, regardless of your politics on it, there's a lot of things that are involving social studies. And I'm actually, civic literacy, I'm all about. And I'm a big free speech component or proponent. And I think there's something to be said for making sure ideas are at least out there. And we can discuss them all day long, and I think it's important. But, we'll talk about that in another podcast. But part of this comes up into, I just had the experience of going to a conference, a couple of conferences this past summer, and got some really just amazing experiences. I'll talk about those later, but I kind of want to hear some of your experiences. You've kind of had a busy summer, and professional development is, I think, both is very near and dear to both of our hearts. And I think sometimes, we get a little bit frustrated with maybe the lack of PD opportunities that we are given or even know about. And so I know for me, I go and try to find those things, and I know you do as well. So talk to us about some of your most recent professional development experiences.
So we'll talk about the earlier professional developments and the best, but the most recent professional development opportunity was an opportunity that I actually found. I found it online just through a Google search one day, and all I searched was, is there opportunities out there for teachers that allow you to plan your own professional development?
That's a real professional development
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I just searched it because I thought pie in the sky idea. I wanted to see if there was anything out there, almost like a grant opportunity that allowed teachers to go anywhere, local in North Carolina, in Johnston County, in the state, United States, or the world, and build professional development that they wanted.
That was individualized to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that wasn't structured by an organization, or that wasn't so structured. And I found it. And I couldn't believe when I had found it. And the organization, it is a nonprofit organization actually out of Texas. And it's a group called Fund for Teachers, all one word.
Fund for Teachers.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's a nonprofit. And they distinguish themselves as not a travel opportunity. It is not a travel trip. It is a grant opportunity. It is a learning opportunity. And my fascination has been, over the last few years, has been the connections between North Carolina and World War II and the Holocaust, and it's deep in our community and our family and in our schools, and there's a lot of connections there.
Sure, and now we have that Holocaust requirement,
and there's
right?
now a Holocaust requirement through the North Carolina Holocaust Council and North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. So I wanted to address a topic that really relates back to a traveling exhibit that Johnson County Public Schools did this past year, which was the Anne Frank Traveling Exhibit.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which is through the University of South Carolina, and we brought it to Johnson County Public Schools, and every middle school student was able to experience it. And it's like a floating museum panel, floating museum, and the kids actually lead their students or lead their classmates. And it's a really cool opportunity. If you don't know about it, do research on it. It's amazing to bring it to your district.
And we could talk about that, how to do that later.
But my students, through the Anne Frank Traveling Exhibit, began asking me questions. And that, and I can admit it, that I didn't know the answer to. I knew what to tell the students. I knew go home and research it. I knew what we were taught in teacher training how to do. Go home, research it. Let's bring it back tomorrow and we'll figure out an answer to it. I know all those questions. So the kids were asking all these questions about, okay, we know about Anne Frank, but what else is there? I know about the kinder transport, the famous put the kids on the train and get them out before the bombings happen. But what I didn't know was everything else. So I wrote the grant to Fund for Teachers that way. How can we, or how can I, or how can our classroom find information about the untold stories of teenagers and kids during World War II and the Holocaust?
Which is, history at its finest is about people and their experiences. It's not just about dates and the facts and figures.
Right.
It's about people.
The kids my kids, and I can't speak for all kids, but my kids want to know about specifics.
Sure.
They want to know people, because if they can relate to it, then they've got it.
All right.
So my mission was to hit the big cities. And through the big cities, you can experience the less known stories, what's not covered in a textbook, what's not covered on a piece of paper, what's not covered in a dialogue or a presentation. So I started in London, kind of where it all started.
So they gave you the money to.
They gave me a maximum of $5,000.
Okay.
To plan it the way I wanted to plan it.
Oh, wow. So you got to plan the whole trip out.
Got to plan everything from hotels to flights to what I was going to see to all points in between. And that's what made it unique.
Sure.
London, Normandy, Munich, Prague, Warsaw, and Krakow.
Really?
Auschwitz,
All of those?
Auschwitz, yes. I wanted to do where it started, the rise of the Nazi Party in Munich, the American, French, British landing and liberation. I wanted to go to Prague because Prague has a unique situation that went on there with the Jewish history and a monster Nazi who they had to remove. Warsaw, the famed ghetto and the uprising that happened. And then Krakow, where for the fate of hundreds of thousands and millions ended.
Right.
And I wanted to put the pieces together and then help my students understand the puzzle behind World War II and the Holocaust, a puzzle that we're still trying to figure out and debate still 80 years later.
So it just grabs you on the way that you were able to see this personally as a teacher. I mean, I think that's a wonderful opportunity. But you got to plan this out and say the name of the event or again.
It's called Fund for Teachers.
Fund for Teachers.
And I'm going to go ahead and put a plug in February at the State Social Studies Council annual conference. If you attend, there will be a session on this process.
On how to do that.
On how to do it.
And
even more detailed.
And you're going to be talking about that, maybe showing some of your stuff. Fantastic.
Showing and how the student reflection part of it as well.
Okay.
So you're going to be able to see the full picture.
Oh, that's going to be because you're going to be able to have taught some of the stuff at least a little bit, right?
Yes.
I think there's so many professional development opportunities out there, specifically for history teachers. I mean, for me, I just attended Freedom's Foundation. I've attended a Teaching American History. I've attended a BRI. Now, the Teaching American History is actually coming up in September. I'm excited about. I'm going to Boston. And then I went to Valley Forge this past a couple of weeks ago and got a chance to quite literally stand in the same house that George Washington stayed in when he was, doing battle plans and with all of his generals. And then there's a Medal of Honor grove that is part of that Freedom's Foundation that just being able to walk is 40 acres is amazing. And then I was able to attend the Sphere Summit and in Washington, D.C. Got a really probably the only opportunity ever that I'll ever have to do this, but I got to sit in the National Archives and had dinner. And, about 30 feet away from me are the founding documents of the United States. And awesome. Just, the power that has, and of course, being able to walk by there and see those documents. But I also got the opportunity to meet Senator Ted Budd, the staff for Senator Tillis. I got to meet in my area, Dr. Greg Murphy, Congressman Murphy. I got to meet him, spend some time talking with him about some of the things that are going on in our district. Myself and another teacher who lives in Washington, we were able to do that. And then we were able to meet with Representative or Congressman Jackson, a Democrat congressman from the western part of the state. We got to meet with Congressman Hudson and several others that I was just like, wow. And I actually we actually got to sit in on a committee meeting it was a committee meeting that. It wasn't any great, it was about immigration, but it was still neat to be able to sit in the back of the room and watch. So all these professional developments that you and I both attend, what is the point, Tyler? What is it about these that really, we like them, we love them, but what is it about those that help us become better teachers?
Okay. So to be able to explain the answer to that question, I must give a little bit of background behind it.
Okay.
my best professional development that I ever have attended was a highly, highly, highly competitive process. Fun for Teachers, 300 teachers got it all across the United States. Only one from North Carolina. But the best one that I've ever done is in 2018, the year prior to COVID, the summer before COVID happened. And it was through an organization called the Goethe Institute out of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And the Goethe Institute sponsors a program called the Transatlantic Outreach Program. And Transatlantic Outreach Program takes teachers from all across the United States together. And you don't know each other.
Right.
I mean, I was the only one from North Carolina, and I didn't know anybody that went before that trip. And we go to Germany for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
From Würzburg and Leipzig to Frankfurt and Berlin. So we're seeing both East and West Germany. And first off, we have individual hotel rooms as well, which is a calling card for professional development. Sometimes you have indie, sometimes you have dual, but that's a different discussion. And through that, we got to experience things that very few people get to see. But the thing that made that professional development so powerful was the conversations that group of 12 to 16 teachers had in the hotel, in the bus rides, on the train, at the historical sites, at the German embassy, at Deutsche Bank headquarters, at these places on how they implement things in their classrooms.
Right. Networking.
The network.
Right.
And that's where I find the biggest advantage in professional development is the lessons that are learned from other teachers in these professional developments that I can bring back to my kids in Johnson County, North Carolina, that the kids that I teach and that I interact with every day, and then the teachers I interact with on a daily basis or weekly or monthly or yearly, that I get to share with them the resources. And now we're growing every student in the district. That every student in the district or more students in the district are growing through social studies knowledge because of the resources that are being shared with them. And without these professional development opportunities, the resources are a little bit less available, limited. So I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I think, again, we both like professional development, but we've been very proactive. Mm-hmm. And a lot of counties can't necessarily send their teachers on professional development. We both are part of the North Carolina Council, and we're board members. And so one of the reasons that we're starting really this podcast is to say, okay, obviously we want to invite you. Hey, there's a bigger network, there's a bigger group of social studies teachers out there. And social studies is unlike the other branches of, curriculum. We have the world history, the American history, the civics, now the economics and personal finance, all these types of the social sciences that are so broad. And, some of us are better in one area or another, but they all kind of interlock. And so for us, we invite you to come to these social studies conferences that are coming up, and we invite you to kind of pick our brain. If there's something else, I know that I'm going to be kind of putting together a list of opportunities, professional development. Some are where you have to apply for, and some are they're kind of open and available for free to do that. Mm-hmm. But that's really one of the reasons for this podcast is to let anybody that has the opportunity. Maybe you're driving to school and you're listening to this. Maybe you're, at the end of the day trying to, wrap up some stuff and you just got this in your ear. We want to encourage you the opportunity to do professional development, and not just the ones that kind of the boring, I want to, get out of here kind of professional development. But I really hate that I am having to leave this because I've learned so much and my brain is overloaded and I'm ready to get back in the classroom. I know that for me with the Sphere Conference, they treated us, wonderfully and great food, great conversation. But that's really the whole purpose of this podcast is to be able to do that. And again, some of the opportunities that we're trying to provide to teachers about seeing different resources and doing a quick 5 to 6 minute overview of those. That's what we're looking for. So Tyler, I really appreciate you participating in this edition of NCCSS Connections. This is a collective podcast for North Carolina social studies teachers. And to our listeners, and as your host, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who joined us. It's been an honor to explore the world of social studies education alongside such a passionate and dedicated community of educators. I want to encourage each of you to continue the conversations, connect with your fellow educators, continue to seek new opportunities for growth, and share your expertise with others. Matter of fact, if you have an idea of what to share, please give us a shout, give us a call or email so that we can connect and we can find out and pick your brain. So remember, you are a vital part of shaping the future through the minds of your students. And of course, be sure to join us for new episodes of NCCSS Connections, where we continue an exciting journey together as we learn, grow, and collectively make a positive impact on future generations of North Carolina students. Until we meet again, remember that you are guiding minds, shaping futures, and empowering tomorrow's citizens. So do it well.